everyone, Sarah here from Never Out of Books. I'm in a different spot now because the sun is wreaking havoc, or it was until I moved everything, and now the sun is gone again. So whatever. We are filming this from here now, this side, looking onto the bookshelves, like my mother always says needs to happen. Mother's being always right, correct? Of course, she doesn't realize that when I stand, I move a lot, even more than when I sit. So, sorry in advance, everybody. I am wrapping up Read the Olympics 2020 for you. This went from June 14th to July 19th, and I read everything I said I was going to read. This whole entire stack of books, and I will do my best to give you something from everything here. First up, I read Tyrannosaurus Rex by Stuart Gibbs. This is the latest in the Fun Jungle series. I think it's number 6. I love Stuart Gibbs very, very much, and he is hilarious. I laugh, and I have quite an enjoyable time with this series. This is set mostly in like this zoo hybrid with like they're trying to get rides and everything else in there owned by this billionaire. And the main protagonist, Teddy, lives there with his parents. They are workers in the zoo, and they live kind of right next to it. This one had a heist of a Tyrannosaurus skull, which was a different spin. I completely enjoyed this. I definitely recommend this series. I know a lot of people are thinking of homeschooling. I am continuing to homeschool my daughter. I have been doing that since 4th grade, and she's 16 now. But these have some very interesting, accurate facts in them, and it's a good way to kind of weasel in some potential learning, especially if you have kids who like animals. I also read Shadow of a Spout by Amanda Cooper. This is the second book in the Teapot Collector Mysteries. I believe there are only 3 of them. In this one, it does not take place in the small town of the first one. It takes place at a Teapot Collector convention where there is a murder. As for this, the first book I thought was okay, but because it talks about tea and there's tea in it, I wanted to keep reading. Unfortunately, this one did not do it for me at all. I won't be reading the third. I read Brainjack by Brian Faulkner. This is a light thriller. It's a young adult book. And holy crap, there's Cheez-Its in my corner, and I usually try to clean up. The life of a mother. Sorry. This is a dystopian thriller with elements of AI and things like that in it. Very interesting read, thought-provoking. This was written several years ago, and you can definitely see the route the technology is taking, that this could take place, but it is almost out of date, if that makes any sense. And there's definitely a lot of electronics and computer talk in here. I don't speak other computer languages, so I can't attest to how accurate it was, and that part was like a little bit boring, honestly, because I don't understand what was going on. But for other people, it could be interesting. I think my grandfather did like it. So this was a good book, not a great book. I also read Consumed by J.R. Ward. This is an adult romantic suspense. I did read the little prequels also before this. They weren't counted toward anything in this challenge, but I just felt like I should, and that people were saying they were a good setup for this story. The first several chapters are the setup for the horrible accident that befalls the heroine in this story. Like, it's pretty graphic. If I mean, it could trigger some people. There is loss of limb in this, in a very traumatic way. So both these characters definitely have mental health things to get over from just this particular fire. But she ends up like getting herself and redoing, because she's, you know, a fire family, like they're all firemen and all of that. And she becomes an arson investigator. Starts way down low in the totem pole, and that's where she stays for the whole book, so that's always nice to see. Just like where you start at the bottom. But she does find some connections between different fires, including the one she was injured in, and potential arsons that have been going on for a while. And it becomes this big, deep thing. This was a very good book, but it was very dark. So know that before you go in. I read An African in Greenland by Tete Michel Pomasi. This is a nonfiction, and it is exactly what it says. This is about a boy in Africa, and you learn all these cool customs and all the different things that are going on there, and a sickness and illness that brings him in contact with a book with pictures about Greenland, and his all-consuming desire and action to get there. It is amazing what you can do, to the fact that he gave up lucrative jobs because he thought he would get too used to the lifestyle and not meet his goal to go to Greenland. And then he gets to Greenland, and the amount of culture and different things going on there was just absolutely fascinating. It is gross, though. It's another book that's pretty gory, especially with the animals, because, I mean, what do people in Greenland eat? Like, if you're going to be a vegetarian there, you're going to starve to death. So it's a bit grotesque, the whole book, to be honest, because it's not something that we deal with a lot. So there was a lot of culture in here. But definitely an interesting read. Just recognize that there are death of animals. They kill them to eat them, and it is a bit graphic. I read Harbor for the Nightingale by Kathleen Baldwin. This is the fourth book in the Strange House series. This is about, well, this is an alternate history, Napoleonic War era, Regency era, and it is girl spies, boarding school, all the cool things, and they are trying to take down these bad guys. This girl, Maya, is a nightingale, they call her. She's a singer. There's something in her tone of voice that makes people do what she wants. And she is also half Indian, so she's considered half caste. England, and it's about her acceptance with her English side of the family that kind of gave her up, and ramifications of that. I've enjoyed these books. They are lighthearted and fun in a way, but they do kind of have the same thing going on over and over and over again. Napoleon isn't the only bad guy, let's just say that, and they are constantly having to fight that. Although there was a little bit of a change in this book, so that was good. I enjoy this. I really wish the last book would come out. There is no release date for the final book in this series, and it is making me upset. I thought this was the last one. It is not. I would really like to see how this ends up. I read A Call for Kelp by Bree Baker. This is the fourth book in a Seaside Cafe mystery. These have tea in them, so duh, I'm getting this and reading the crap out of it. I have the other 4 books. I've been reading this series, trying to keep up with it. This features Everly Swan, and her boyfriend is the police person. I think there's only like one policeman on this stinking island, it seems like, but her beau. And another death happens in this cute little town of Charm. Another very good installment. Wouldn't say it's great. People keep blaming her for getting pulled in and investigating when they don't want her to because they're worried about her safety. The problem is that in this case, she really wasn't investigating. And people kept accusing her of investigating, so I was a little like, my gal ain't investigating. She's not doing it, and you guys need to stop accusing her. So I was a little put off by that. Of all the strange things to become indignant about, that's what I become indignant about. But whatever, she does end up investigating because she doesn't have a choice. And she really didn't have a choice in this one. It's not like in other books where you're like, you say you don't have a choice, but you totally had a choice. I enjoyed it. We'll be keeping going as long as it goes. I totally took a shot before reading this book, let me tell you. I read Ethan Frome by Edith Wharton. And let me tell you, if this is one of the worst books on my TBR and own bookshelf, then I've got a lot of great books on my shelf, because this was not awful. I mean, it was sad and depressing, but it wasn't a bad book. I mean, it's about Ethan. He has a horrible marriage that he kind of got suckered into to this horrible hypochondriac woman, and he ends up falling in love with his wife's cousin, who comes to live with them because no one else wants her. And it's horrifically tragic what ends up happening. Let me tell you, it was awful, but it wasn't a bad book, so I'll take it. But yeah, I did need the shot. Totally needed the shot. Anna of California by Andy Taran. I really should have looked that up. I got this in a book box one time. This is great. This is I don't want to say retelling, reimagining of Anne of Green Gables, believe it or not. And it was very good. You know, it kind of followed that storyline a little bit of the orphan who in the city and who gets sent on to a farm. And y'all know that one of my favorite books is The Secret Garden, so you know how much I believe that the outside and gardens heal people. And so this book was like right up my alley with that thought. So I enjoyed this. If you like Anne of Green Gables and you want another twist on it, I would recommend this. If you like the healing power of the outside and the right people, then there's this. Yes. And Anna is not necessarily like a bad person, but she somehow gets pegged as a bad person, and it was good. This was great. This was a great book. I read The Tea Machine. This is the Tea Time Chronicles. Of course, I bought this book because it's about tea and has tea on the cover. So, words cannot describe this book. I have no idea how to summarize this book. It was completely insanely wacky. Like really weird. If you're a hardcore steampunk person, you might like this book. The other thing that I didn't know from reading the back, and honestly kept forgetting about while I was reading it, is this is a female-female romance. So if you like LGBTQ books and steampunk, you might like this. But it's weird. I mean, yeah. I won't be continuing on because I don't really like female-female romance. I don't like it. And I liked light steampunk. This was a little bit too steampunk for me. I read Daughter of the Pirate King by Tricia Levenseller. This is the first book of a duology, I believe, if I'm correct. And it's funny because I have had this on my shelf for a very long time, and because it came in a book box and it was getting hype, and then people weren't liking it, and so it kind of turned me off of it a little bit. And here's a reason to not listen to hype, because I really enjoyed this book. Sometimes you gotta stop it and stop listening to people's bad reviews, because I liked it a lot. Elosa is the daughter of the Pirate King, but there's a lot of war in the pirate factions going on right now. She gets kidnapped on purpose to try to find the pieces that lead to treasure, basically. But ends up finding out some things about her father. She doesn't like things go on. Things go down. And there is a start of a romance. I wouldn't say that there's actual real romance going on in this book. They kind of like each other, but they still kind of hate each other. But yeah, all about the pirates. I liked it. There was nothing wrong with this book. I don't know what people were going so crazy about. I want to get my hands on the second book, but I don't want to buy it because I'm cheap. So, and with the libraries not being open, it might be a little bit before I grab the next book. But I do want to read it. I read Wonder Woman Warbringer by Leigh Bardugo. This, lovely, I gave 5 stars. This is another one that sat on my shelf and sat on my shelf because I was like, you know, I got it right around the time the movie came out, and I was like, no, if it's not the movie, the same as the movie was so good. Oh my goodness. I don't want to read that. It's going to be different. I can't do it. This was fantastic. And what I can say about this is female friendships not related to boys. This book has it. If you want a good friendship story, this is your book. And it's a Wonder Woman story, so you know, you got the naive girl kind of going out, leaving, kind of trying to figure herself out in the modern world, and she's trying to stop the Warbringer. I read Dangerous Alliance by Jennieke Cohen. Now, this one comes with the story. I thought this was a retelling of Pride and Prejudice. It is not. So I could not count it for that, but between what I did with this next book and this one, I'm counting that as taken care of. It is set in Jane Austen time, and they are all fans of Jane Austen. She tries to use those books to guide her life, but in the time of Jane Austen. Loved it. This read like an old school Regency romance, just brought me back in time, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. It is a Regency romance, but it is young adult, so there's not sexy times in it. Loved it. So because I didn't have a retelling, I tried to read, Bellamy and the Brute by Alicia Michaels, because this is a Beauty and the Beast retelling. What I did not realize until I was on page 8 and I was already scared crapless, is that it is a horror novel. There are a few lines that I cannot cross in life, and one of them is the horror line. So I had to put this book down if I ever wanted to sleep again. But let me tell you, I would be so interested to see what a person, what one of you thought of this book who likes horror. Because I want to read this book and see how they did Beauty and the Beast with a horror spin. But I cannot do it. So it's going out of my house. But if anyone knows anyone who has read this book, I want to know what it's about. And I'm really sad that I can't read it because I won't sleep. And my family will hate me because they'll have to walk me to the bathroom every time I have to go to the bathroom. Because I am a scaredy cat, and I was already scared on page 4. So, I am counting the retelling done because I tried very hard. I got all of those golds. There was a bazillion of them. I totally made a mistake in my video too. This was only hosted by one person and not a bunch of them. And I completely forgot to log my books. I got the reminder while I was at work. I'm a nurse. There is no stopping what I'm doing to log 14 books, okay? So I forgot to log them, and I'm really sad, but it is what it is. I am thrilled that I got back into reading, and this was a fun readathon, and I missed the Olympics too because I really like watching the Olympics. It's so much fun, so it's kind of sad it was postponed, and it was fun to do a readathon during that time. I felt good. I felt really good about it. That is that. And I will talk to you later. I have a couple of other wrap-ups to do, and the weather is totally not cooperating for this filming, but It is what it is. So I will see you all later. Bye.